The truth is, if you don't want yourself, no one else truly can. And I don't mean this in a cliche surface level way. I mean this in the deepest, most rawest sense. If you don't enjoy your presence, if you don't find yourself worthy, then how can you expect anyone else to? People mirror the energy you carry. If you walk through life unsure of yourself and doubting your worth, questioning whether you're enough, that's exactly the energy that will be reflected back to you in your relationships, friendships, and opportunities. I was reading How to Be Wanted by Rami Miller, and a chapter titled How to Want Yourself really stood out to me. It made me think, everybody wants somebody, but how many people actually want themselves? How many truly enjoy their own company, respect themselves, and move with confidence? That's what this conversation is about today. If you're a male or a female and you're starting your journey where you're just tired of being tired and accepting things that no longer serve you, whether in relationships or friendships, this is a great place to start. How to Be Wanted is one of the first books I read when I was beginning my journey of going inward a few years ago, and I highly recommend it. It's a great resource for figuring out what you want, who you are, and how to stop settling. A lot of people spend their lives searching for validation from external sources. They think, if I could just find the right partner, if I could just be chosen, if I could just be desired, then I'll feel complete. But that's backwards. You don't become worthy because someone else picks you. You get chosen because you already know you're worthy. That confidence, that self-assured energy is what draws people in. But here's the other side of that. When you don't project confidence, when you walk through life unsure of yourself, you become a target for manipulation, for use, for people who thrive on taking advantage of insecurity. When you don't truly value yourself, you're more likely to ignore red flags, to tolerate mistreatment, to make excuses for people who don't deserve you. This is why certain people always seem to find themselves in situations where they're being strung along, breadcrumbed, or mistreated. They're not walking in self-assured energy. Instead, they move from a place of lack, of hoping someone else will see their worth before they do. And unfortunately, there are people out there who prey on that. Think about it. When someone knows their worth, they move differently. They set boundaries. They don't overextend themselves for people who give them the bare minimum. They don't tolerate inconsistency. But when you're still questioning your own value, you're more likely to justify mistreatment instead of walking away from it. You tell yourself, maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe I just need to be patient. Maybe if I prove I'm good enough, they'll see my worth. This is why wanting yourself first is a non-negotiable, because if you don't, you will always be waiting for someone else to validate you, to choose you, to confirm your worth. And that's a dangerous game to play. So before we go deeper, ask yourself, do I genuinely like who I am? Do I know who I am? Do I move with confidence and self-assurance? Or am I just waiting for someone else to make me feel valuable? Because nothing changes until you do. You ever notice how certain people just command attention when they walk into a room? It's not always about looks. It's not about being the loudest person or having designer clothes. It's about energy. Confidence is silent but undeniable. And on the flip side, so is insecurity. When you don't want yourself, people can feel that. It shows up in how you speak, how you move, how you react to things. It's in your body language, your tone, the way you either shrink or take up space. If you don't believe in your own worth, people subconsciously pick up on that. They sense hesitation. They sense uncertainty. And unfortunately, some people will take advantage of that. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who was conventionally attractive, but still didn't seem to have a magnetic presence? That's because attraction isn't just about looks. It's about the energy behind them. People gravitate toward confidence, toward those who radiate in a sense of, I know who I am, and I'm not looking for someone to complete me. That's what makes you irresistible. Now take that a step further. A beautiful woman is beautiful, but a beautiful woman who is self-aware, intelligent, she's confident, she's a force. She doesn't shrink herself to make others feel comfortable. She doesn't deny her small insecurities, but she carries herself with grace, knowing that they don't define her. She moves with intention. She's selective about the company she keeps. where she goes, what she listens to, and what she consumes. She understands that her energy is sacred. And because of that, she protects it. That's an all around beautiful woman, not just a woman who turns heads, but one who captivates minds, who commands respect without demanding it. The same goes for a man. A man who respects himself, who carries himself with dignity, who isn't out seeking validation from every woman he sees. That's a different kind of man. He doesn't need attention to feel worthy. He doesn't feel threatened by accountability. He welcomes it. He understands that self-improvement isn't about guilt or shame. It's about growth. He holds himself to a high standard, not just for others, but for himself. That's the kind of man who stands out, not just because of how he looks, but because of the presence he carries. Because at the end of the day, true attraction isn't just about what others see on the outside. It's about depth. It's about energy. It's about moving in a way that makes people feel something when they're around you. And when you carry yourself like that, you don't have to chase a thing. What's meant for you will always be drawn to you. Here's the hard truth. If you're always second guessing yourself, constantly seeking reassurance, or acting out of desperation, people sense that too. And instead of attracting those who respect you, you might find yourself drawing in those people who only see you as an option, not a priority. The shift happens when you stop begging for a seat at someone's table and realize you are the table. When you genuinely like yourself, when you enjoy your own company, you start walking different, talking different, and moving different. And trust me, people will notice. A lot of people don't want to admit it, but one of the biggest reasons they don't put themselves out there, so whether that's in relationships, friendships, or opportunities, it's because deep down, they're afraid of rejection. They don't want to try because they don't want to fail. But here's what they don't realize. Not trying is failing. Sitting on the sidelines of life and watching things pass you by, it's a form of rejection. You're just rejecting yourself first. When you don't truly want yourself, rejection feels like proof that you're not good enough, proof that you'll never be chosen, proof that you should have never put yourself out there to begin with. So what do people do? They stay comfortable. They play small. They avoid situations where they could face disappointment. And in doing so, they rob themselves of real experiences, of real growth. But let's flip the perspective. What if rejection isn't personal? What if it's redirection? What if it's God's way of saying, not this, not them, something better is coming? The only way to get past the fear of rejection is to realize that it doesn't define you. It doesn't take away your value. It doesn't mean you aren't worthy. It just means that that wasn't your door to walk through. The difference between people who succeed and people who don't isn't that they never get rejected, is that they don't let rejection stop them. They want themselves enough to keep going. They don't take it as a sign to stop. They take it as a sign to move in a different direction. A lot of people avoid being alone because they confuse it with loneliness. They think that if they're single, that if they don't have a big social circle, if they spend too much time by themselves, then something is wrong with them. But that's a lie that society has told you and you bought it. Being alone is a state. Loneliness is a feeling, and they don't always have to go hand in hand. You can be surrounded by people and still feel lonely. You can be in a relationship and still feel unseen. You can have all the external validation in the world and still feel like something is missing. The real flex is being able to be at peace with yourself and to know that you don't need constant distractions, that you don't chase people just to fill a void, that you don't settle for attention when what you really want is connection. When you truly enjoy your own company, you stop running from solitude. You stop fearing quiet moments. You stop looking to others to complete what you should be completing within yourself. And here's the magic in that. When you get to that place, the relationships you attract will be different. You won't attract from a place of neediness, but from a place of fulfillment. You'll stop choosing people out of desperation and start choosing them out of alignment. Because when you want yourself, you don't settle for relationships that require you to abandon yourself. So how do you actually do this? How do you start wanting yourself more, seeing yourself as someone valuable, and moving through life with the confidence that you are enough? Number one, check your self-talk. If your internal dialogue is constantly negative, you're reinforcing the belief that you are not enough. Change the way you speak to yourself. Speak to yourself the way you would to a friend. Number two, start keeping promises to yourself. When you say you're going to do something, follow through. That's how you build self-trust. That's how you prove to yourself that you're reliable. Number three, stop seeking validation from others. Approval feels good, but it shouldn't be your fuel. If you need people to tell you that you're valuable before you'll believe it, that's a problem. Number four, surround yourself with people who reflect your worth. If you're constantly around people who bring you down, make you question yourself, or don't respect you, it's time to reevaluate who gets access to you. Number five, do things that make you feel good about yourself. Whether it's taking care of your body, learning something new, or setting personal goals, give yourself things to be proud of. When you start doing these things, you'll notice a shift. You'll start carrying yourself differently. You'll start attracting different energy. And most importantly, you'll realize that you were the prize all along. For many people, the biggest reason they don't step into their full confidence is the fear of rejection. It's that sinking feeling of not being wanted, of putting yourself out there and not getting the response you hope for. And I've been through the rejection before, whether in love, friendships, or opportunities. You might have unknowingly internalized it, letting it shape how you see yourself. But here's the thing about rejection. It's only as powerful as you allow it to be. When you take rejection personally, you make it mean something about your worth. You convince yourself that if someone didn't want you, if they didn't appreciate you, then maybe you're not enough. But that's not the truth. Rejection is often just redirection. It's like removing something that wasn't aligned with you, even if you couldn't see it in that moment. When you truly want yourself, rejection doesn't shake you because you know that someone else's inability to recognize your value doesn't make you any less valuable. You don't internalize it. You don't spiral into self-doubt. Instead, you see it for what it is, evidence that this wasn't the right fit and that something better is ahead. Think about it. Some of the most successful, confident, and powerful people in the world have faced rejection countless times. The difference is they never let it define them. They didn't shrink themselves. They didn't beg for validation. They kept moving because they knew that what was meant for them would always find them. So the next time you feel yourself fearing rejection, ask yourself, am I afraid of rejection or am I afraid of what I'll make it mean about me? Because the truth is, rejection is inevitable, but letting it control you is a choice. And if you truly want yourself, you'll never let rejection be the thing that stops you. One of the biggest mistakes people make is waiting to be chosen. They go through life hoping that someone will pick them, validate them, see their worth. And in doing so, they completely give up their power. Think about it. When you wait to be chosen, you put yourself in a passive position. You're saying, I'll be worthy when someone else decides I am. I'll be confident when someone else loves me. I'll feel beautiful when someone tells me I am. But what happens when no one shows up to give you that validation? What happens when the person you were waiting on doesn't pick you? If you're always waiting on outside approval, you'll never be in control of your own happiness. You'll always feel like you're one person, one relationship, one compliment away from feeling whole. And that's a dangerous way to live because it means your confidence is always in someone else's hands. This is why you have to choose yourself first. Not because you don't want to be loved, appreciated, or desired, but because you don't need to wait for someone else to give you permission to feel worthy. You don't need to be picked. You need to pick yourself. People who truly want themselves don't sit around waiting to be validated. They walk into rooms knowing they belong there. They pursue their goals because they believe in their ability to succeed. They show up for themselves first, and as a result, they naturally attract the right people, opportunities, and relationships. So stop waiting. Stop hoping to be seen. Decide today that you are already enough, and watch how everything around you starts to shift. Many people struggle with self-worth because they've been conditioned to seek approval, whether it was from their parents, teachers, friends, or past relationships. They were taught either directly or indirectly, that their value was tied to how much they could please others. Maybe you were the child who had to earn love by being perfect. Maybe you were the friend who always had to be the peacemaker. Maybe you were in a relationship where your needs were constantly pushed aside. And over time, you learned that being wanted meant proving yourself. But here's the truth. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone. The need for approval is an illusion. It convinces you that love, respect, and belonging are things that you have to earn, when in reality, they should be freely given. When you want yourself, you stop seeking approval because you already approve of you. You stop bending over backward to please people who don't appreciate you. You stop living for the validation of others and you start living for your own fulfillment. This doesn't mean you stop caring about others. It means you stop performing for love, validation, or acceptance. You become your own source. And once you do that, the right people, the ones who truly see you, will gravitate towards you effortlessly. Self-respect is one of the most magnetic things a person can have. When you truly respect yourself, you don't allow disrespect from others. You don't tolerate inconsistency, half effort, or people who don't value your time. But self-respect starts with how you treat yourself. If you constantly talk down to yourself, settle for less, or betray your own boundaries, you're teaching yourself that you don't deserve better. And when you believe that, you allow others to treat you the same way. Wanting yourself means setting a high standard for how others can engage with you. It means understanding that your energy is valuable, your time is precious, and that your heart is not a playground for people who don't take care of it. And here's the thing. When you respect yourself, the right people rise to meet your standards. The wrong ones fall away. And that's exactly how it should be. Because when you have self-respect, you don't chase, you attract. So if you're struggling with feeling overlooked or undervalued, ask yourself, am I truly respecting myself? Because people can only treat you in ways that you allow. At the end of the day, everything comes down to choice. You can either choose to keep waiting, you can keep doubting, to keep hoping that one day you'll finally feel good enough, or you can decide right now that you already are. You have to want yourself first before anyone else does, before the right partner shows up, before the dream opportunity arrives. Because when you start living in that energy, when you start embodying the confidence, the self-assurance, and the self-worth that you desire, you naturally become the person you were always meant to be. You stop fearing rejection. You stop chasing validation. You stop wanting to be chosen. Instead, you step into your own power. You walk into a room knowing you belong. You set standards and actually stick to them. You radiate an energy that makes people take notice, not because you're demanding attention, but because you move with certainty. That is what true self-worth looks like. That is what wanting yourself truly means. And once you master that, everything else in your life changes. Mastering self-worth is not about arrogance. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about moving through life knowing you are already enough. The moment you start believing that, really believing it, you stop settling. You stop chasing. You stop shrinking yourself. You become the person you were meant to be. And once you do, the right people, the right opportunities, and the right experiences will naturally align. But it all starts with one simple truth. You have to want yourself first. Thank y'all so much for watching. I really hope this helped. We will go further into this. And of course, as always, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.